Out for my plan, thought Thomas. Pumping the trucks fiercely, he jerked his driver off the footplate and followed them into the siding. "Come back!" yelled his driver. "Fire and smoke," said Thomas. "I am sunk." Thomas thought he was being clever. Really, he was only moving because a careless cleaner had meddled with his controls. He soon found his mistake. He tried to whee, but he couldn't. He tried to stop, but he couldn't. He just kept rolling along. He didn't dare look at what was coming next. There was the station master's house. The station master was about to have breakfast. "Horrors!" cried Thomas, and shut his eyes. The house rocked. Broken glass tinkled. Plaster was everywhere. Thomas had collected a bush on his travels. He peered into the room through its leaves. He couldn't speak.
Thomas knows every part of his branch line, but just ahead was a stretch where the hot sun had bent the rails on the track. "Careful, Thomas," called his driver, but it was too late. "That's done it," said his driver. "We shan't get any further today." "But what about my passengers?" "Don't worry. They'll be looked after," replied his driver. Danger lay ahead. "Now for our plan," giggled the trucks. "Go faster, go faster." "Slow down," called Thomas's driver, and applied the brakes. Poor Thomas stood dazed and surprised in a muddy pond as a toad eyed him suspiciously. "Bust my buffers," muttered Thomas. The day started so well, too. Thomas grew more and more excited. Too excited for his own good. "I'm glad I'm a splendid engine," he puffed. "The Fat Controller thinks I'm really useful. I had a race with Percy once. I whooshed through the tunnel and stopped an inch from the buffers." Then Thomas made his mistake. "Just like this," he boasted. No one was hurt, but Thomas's front was badly bent.
Later, Thomas was travelling home on the same line. He was pulling trucks filled with vegetables. The signalman had forgotten to warn his driver about the crossing. "That's nice, we don't need to stop," said Thomas happily. "Yes, we do," called his driver, but it was too late. And not far away, Thomas was happily puffing right on time. "I can't see a thing," said Thomas. And then, before he could even think of anything else... "Bust my buffers!" cried Thomas. "What happened to the foghorn?" "I don't know," said his driver, "but at least nobody's been hurt." "Toby will be coming down the line any minute," said his fireman. "If there's no fog warning," said Thomas, "he'll run into us." Thomas couldn't see there was a huge rock buried under the snow. Suddenly his snow plough hit the rock. "Bouncing buffers!" exclaimed Thomas. "My plough is broken." His driver tried to stop, but the broken plough hit the water tower. "Cinders and ashes!" exclaimed Thomas. Thomas was carefully chuffing through the rain. Soon he had collected the farmer's bull and was on his way back. The rain had made the tracks more wobbly than ever. Suddenly, There was a deep rumbling sound. Thomas's driver applied the brakes, but it was too late.
Cinders and ashes!
Cried Thomas.
We're stuck!
And they were. Thomas steamed as fast as he could along the line. But there was trouble ahead. Some faulty points sent his trucks one way, and Thomas onto the old pier rail. The trucks were delighted. He's fallen in the water! Luckily, Thomas wasn't hurt and the fish truck stayed on the tracks. Soon, Thomas was on his way to pick up the workers at the new station. Difficult bend, he puffed nervously. The difficult bend came nearer and nearer. Thomas was supposed to slow down, but he wanted to get past the bend quickly. So Thomas went faster and faster. The carriages rattled and shook. Soon be over, Thomas said to himself. And it soon was. Luckily, no one was hurt. But Thomas felt sadder than ever. Thomas was out of control. Thomas braked as hard as he could, but the fish trucks were too heavy. Oops, said Thomas. Sorry. Salty was covered in fish. Never mind me, Artie, said Salty. The smell reminds me of the sea. And backed up to the paint trucks. But Diesel was in the yard too. Now I'll show Thomas who's best, Diesel whispered. And he gave the trucks an extra hard shunt. Paint pots flew into the air and splattered down all over Thomas. There was green paint, yellow paint and red paint. Thomas looked very silly indeed. Stripy boiler, laughed Diesel, and he rolled away. I'll show those Diesels, puffed Thomas. Suddenly, Thomas saw Harry rumbling towards him. Thomas backed away as fast as he could, but he didn't see Bert pulling up behind him. Thomas bumped into Bert, the stinky cheese shot into the air and splattered down all over Thomas, Bert and Harry. Now we're really stinky, moaned Harry. The most stinkiest engines ever, groaned Bert. Harry and Bert rushed straight to the washdown. Thomas wanted to go to the washdown too, but Thomas's cheese was all over the track. What am I going to do? He puffed sadly.
Then there was trouble. The tunnel ahead was blocked. "Oh no!" cried Thomas. He applied his brakes, but it was too late. Thomas crashed straight through the blocked tunnel. With a mighty splash, Thomas landed in a pool of water. "Oh, frizzling fireboxes! This tunnel is flooded!" he gasped. It didn't feel fun anymore. It felt scary. "I wish I was back at Great Waterton," he wished quietly. Thomas drifted slowly forward. There was nothing he could do. "Cinders and ashes," Thomas gasped as he floated along the tunnel. He tooted as loudly as he could. "Help!" he cried. But there was no one there to hear his whistle. "No one will find me now," Thomas wailed. "No one will want to find me."
huffing up a steep slope. He was puffing and panting, and his axles ached. At last, he reached the top.
Hooray! I did it!
Then there was trouble. There was a clang and a prang. Thomas gasped.
Cinders and ashes! I've broken my brakes!
Thomas's wheels started to whir and to wobble. He flew faster and faster down the hill.
Oh no! Oh, help!
Thomas raced down one hill and rattled up the next.
Help! I can't stop!
Thomas's heavy trucks pushed him on and on through a junction where Spencer was waiting.
Blistering violence!
And into some potato trucks. Potatoes bounced everywhere, but Thomas sped on. Into a flatbed of jam barrels. Sticky jam flew in the air and landed all over Thomas. But still he went on and found himself rolling along an old rickety track. Ahead, Thomas could see a thick wall of bushes.
Fenders and funnels! How can I stop?
With a scrunch and a crunch, Thomas crashed into the bushes and came to a stop.
Flaming fireboxes! That was scary.
Thomas looked around. After the racing and rattling, it was very quiet. Then, Thomas chuffed up behind Gordon.
Thanks for clearing the tracks, Gordon. Now I can deliver the firewood faster.
Then there was trouble. The giant snowball was too big and too heavy. It started to push Gordon back down the hill.
Look out, Thomas!
Cinders and ashes!
Gordon and his trucks rolled back faster and faster. Thomas chuffed back faster and faster. He slipped into a siding, and Gordon rolled round a bend.
The giant snowball will surely miss us now.
But Gordon was wrong. The giant snowball rolled down the track and crashed and bashed into Thomas.
Help!
Gordon saw Thomas and his truck of firewood lifted high in the air and derailed. Now it was Thomas who looked like a giant snowball. Luckily, no one was hurt. Thomas was late for the Duchess. He whooshed like the wind into Wellsworth Station. Whiff was there. Whiff was too tired to puff on. Thomas didn't see Whiff until it was too late.
Cinders and ashes!
He crashed and he bashed straight into the back of Whiff's rubbish train. The rubbish trucks clattered and battered right off the rails. Stinky rubbish and oily old engine parts toppled and tumbled over the tracks. Luckily, no one was hurt. The Duchess gasped in surprise.
Oh my! Are you all right, Thomas?
Yes, Mom. I'm sorry, Mom. I've been a very silly engine. I thought I needed to smell sweet to take you to tea with Lady Hat. If I'd been really useful instead, I wouldn't have biffed into the rubbish train, and I wouldn't have made you late.
Then, an idea flew into Thomas's funnel.
Yes, I can, Diesel. Owen, you did it! Well done!
Top floor, upper terrace, boulder drop, and blonded bridge.
Luke! Luke!
Thomas tried to race off to find Luke, but then there was trouble. His wheels were too big for the narrow gauge tracks.
Oh dear!
Whoa! 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 Oh no!
Thomas was in danger.
Help! Help! Help!
Watch out, Thomas! He's going to push you off now, just like he did with that yellow engine.
Oh no!
Everyone waited. Everyone watched Luke.
Thomas!
Thomas! Don't worry. I'll pull you back to Owen. Trust me. I can do this. I'm your friend.
Oh, thank you, Luke.
Luke felt strong, stronger than he had ever been. The engines whistled and cheered.
Well done, Luke! Hooray!
Even Merrick woke up.
Very well done. To all of you.
Thank you, Luke.
It's all right, Thomas.
Cinders and ashes.
Owen was surprised.
Steady! Next stop, you're too heavy!
Fizzling fireboxes.
Oh, yes. Superb.
Marvelous!
His way up to the construction yard.
Look, rails and sleepers. What did the small engine say again? Rails first, ballast after. I'll show everyone just how useful I can be. Everyone here seems excited to see me. I guess they really need my help.
Thomas didn't realize that the men were trying to flag him down, and he didn't see the danger signs.
Look out! You can't go down there!
Cinders and ashes!
Come on, Skiff! We're heading for home!
I can do it!
Huh? Faster, Skiff!
Here I come, Skip! Cinders and ashes! No!
You'll never catch me now!
We have to help him, Sailor John! He shouldn't be in the water!
Sail on, Skiff! One more word of mutiny, and you'll be driftwood. Mark my words.
Luckily, nobody was hurt. Then there was more trouble. with too many rocks and no brake van to help him slow down, Thomas couldn't stop.
Percy! Thomas! Look out! Look out! Sorry, Percy.
Had been repaired and Thomas was bringing him back to the dig site.
Max and Monty are good, hard workers. But just remember, it's better to let them compete against each other than to try and beat them at their silly games.
Okay, Oliver. Thanks for that. I'll bear it in mind from now
Max and Monty had caused an accident.
on.